Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. When you're learning to code, you probably have a lot of these thoughts running through your mind. Like, can I really do this? Am I smart enough? Will anybody take me seriously? Is this like a reality? Can I actually get paid to do this stuff? Or is this all just a fantasy? Are boot camps a scam? Is learning to code? Is anybody really doing this and getting hired? I just don't believe it. Maybe I'll just give up. I suspect this happens to way more people than any of us can imagine. Because I meet a lot of people that are really motivated to learn to code. Maybe it's the beginning of the year, or they hate their job, or they've been playing with computers as a kid, or they've written a little bit of code here and they've really fallen in love with it like I did. And then they want to switch careers. But then at some point that motivation runs out. They say, well, I've already done this job for 6 years and maybe I can keep doing it. They've watched a bunch of YouTube videos about how no one in the whole world can get hired. They believe it and then they drop out. They hear people like me speaking about this. They don't believe me. They say, well, this guy's got a boot camp. He has other ulterior motives for telling me why this can work out, and they drop out. There's a quote from a person that I follow online that's really good. He talks about business, not a software person at all, but he talks about business and writing online and making money online. Justin Welsh. And he has a quote that I've used, stolen, repurposed that I'll share with you. Pessimists are often right. Optimists are often wealthy. I've repurposed that to say that pessimists are often right. Optimists are often successful, because you can be successful without being wealthy. I've met a ton of software developers who aren't what I would consider wealthy. I mean, I don't consider myself wealthy, but I feel like, hey, I'm pretty happy with what I got here. And I've developed optimism over the years. And I know that's a superpower, I believe, of mine. And that's one that I think you need to have in order to be successful, because optimism is the prerequisite for success. Optimism meaning you think that things can and will get incrementally better. Pessimism, on the other hand, would be looking at life and saying, I see things incrementally getting worse. If I see two scenarios that could happen, I'm immediately assuming that the worst scenario will play out, not the better one or the best one. And this is dangerous, right? Because your brain is a pattern finding machine. So if you feed it negativity and you say, I'm not going to get hired, or I'm too dumb to learn to code, or no one is really being able to learn this stuff in this kind of way, or no one can go to a boot camp and learn to code, no one can self-teach and learn how to code, your brain is then finding patterns. Then algorithms on YouTube and Instagram will even feed more into it. It'll inundate your brain with all the proof it needs to understand why you cannot achieve this specific goal. And then you don't. And then you look for the proof and you say, well, exactly, that's the proof. On the other hand, the person that looks for proof that they can succeed, their brain will find patterns to reinforce that. They'll say, hey, maybe in school I did really well in some aspect of school, like maybe I was really good in sports, or maybe I won an award or something like that. That gives me some proof that maybe I'm not that dumb. And maybe those past experiences give credibility to the idea that I can do something really cool at this point in my life as an adult, like change careers or learn how to code and get paid a ton of money or something like that. But what if you're into your adulthood and your last accomplishments took place in high school or with your parents or something like that, when you were a child, essentially, when you're getting that feedback from grades in school and awards and sports that you were doing really well and gave you that optimism that maybe life can offer you a lot, and you don't have that anymore. I want to talk about 2 practical ways you can develop optimism, because I see that as incredibly important to learn how to code, switch careers, really do anything that takes you outside of your comfort zone. And if you don't have that optimism, if you don't learn how to develop it, you're going to be working and getting to that goal in spite of yourself, not because of yourself. You need to develop a mental framework that encourages you to go do these things that are not fun, that can be scary, that require lots and lots of time, because motivation will only take you so far. Motivation is like the spark for the fire, but to keep that fire going, you got to keep feeding that fire and making sure that you're on that path and don't just quit, because so many people do take that path. Like, well, this ain't working for me. I'm out. See ya. It never could. So how do you do this? I can tell you about how I've developed this, and I want to offer you 2 ways to do this in this pretty short episode here. So you may think, oh, well, of course you're optimistic. You own a boot camp and you've been doing this for 10 years and you have all the indicators that would tell you that you're going to do well in this career. But think about this. When I came into software, I was 30 years old, had never really used computers in my life. My friends and family, as much as I love them and appreciate them, weren't exactly encouraging. They thought, you just got sober. You just started this job at a school that has nothing to really do with computers. You've never really used computers. And now you think that you're going to be a software engineer. Crickets. I wish it was that kind of movie style encouragement. You'd be like, you know what? You got this, Brian. You can do it. We're all rooting for you. But they wanted me to be safe. They wanted me to play it safe because they were afraid of what might happen to me if I, stretched my wings out too far. That's what your friends and parents will do. They'll say, are you sure you can do that? Because they don't want you to get hurt when or if you fail. Because they think, I want to prevent my son or my daughter from feeling that same way. That's dangerous, though, for you, because you have to be optimistic in order to do something like this. You got to be a little bit crazy, right? To switch careers from being like a French fry chef or a criminal in my case, or somebody that maybe works in finance to saying, I'm going to throw it all away and I'm going to go directly into software. And a person actually asked me that on the show, Zubin Pratap, a lawyer who went to Google and became a software engineer at the age of 37. And I thought that was a really good question. He said, well, what made you optimistic? Like, what made you think you could do this and just kind of, spin the wheel essentially with your career? And I thought back on it. I thought, what has kept me optimistic throughout the years? And this one is going to be kind of a weird one. And I will say it though, my exercise routine. When I got sober, I started working out. And incrementally, I saw the changes in my body, right? I saw myself losing weight. I saw myself going from being able to run 1 mile because I was a heavy smoker at the time. I'd been smoking for 14 years up until the point that I got sober. Quit cigarettes. I'm like, I need to do something. I know I need to get in better shape. I'm going to start running. I have no clue what I'm doing. I have no clue where this is going to take me. But that gave me some indication after doing it long enough that, oh my God, it's actually working. I could look back and think, wow, this thing that I've been doing every single day for, 6 months has now actually improved my ability to run more. I look a little bit better in the mirror. And hey, I'm making progress, which is the most important thing. So I looked back on that and I said, wow, if I could do that, my brain starts to think, what else is possible? Then I taught myself a little bit of code, right? And I'm thinking, hey, I got a little bit of confidence. I'm running. I'm doing something nobody thought I could really do. I have some proof, which is so important to build up some proof that the future can get better. And seeing this proof in the mirror in my running distances gave me more optimism that other aspects of my life could improve as well. I think exercise is one of those really, really, really underrated aspects to learning to code that really no one talks about. I've talked about it like once on the show before, and I don't talk about it enough because I think, do people really get it? Do they get the whole exercise as a coding hack thing? And here's my take on it. Exercise requires a lot of the same mental fortitude that learning how to code requires. So you'll go to the gym every day, right, for a month. You won't see any results. You're like, what the hell? Why am I doing this? So you have to have a little bit of faith, right? You have to have a little bit of faith that if I keep doing this, things are going to change. Eventually, if you do stick to it, you will see things change. The weights you lift will be heavier. You will look a little better in the mirror. People will start to notice your progress. But at first, no one will notice and no one will care. Here's the other thing. You might not notice or care unless you do this other step, which is another important piece of becoming optimistic: documentation. Your brain is terrible at looking at little bits of progress over time. It's terrible at cataloging your progress over a large amount of time. So we really overestimate what we can do like in a day, but we greatly underestimate what we can do in a year. Right? So we think, oh, tomorrow, I'm going to get on this diet, I'm going to start working out. And you think in a week or two, I'm going to see these great results. They don't come. You quit. But then if you stuck to it, 6 months, a year, you're going to see incredible results. But the results are so incremental. They're so gradual that if you're not careful, you won't even know that they're happening. Same thing applies with learning how to code. So many people I talk to, they're like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm doing. I must suck at this. I don't know anything. Or they're in my boot camp, for example, like at Parsity, and they're building a full stack web application and having a hard time deploying it. Or they're learning something like React or TypeScript and thinking, oh, this is really, really complicated. It's confusing the heck out of me. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this thing. And I got to remind them, think about 1 year ago where you were. 1 year ago, what were you doing, right? Well, I didn't even know how to code then. Okay, so you went from not knowing how to code to learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, React, how to deploy something, how to do all these amazing things that you just didn't even think about because you're stuck on this tiny little problem and you don't have that documentation that shows you all the progress you've made. That's another thing I've done over the years, whether it's taking pictures in like the bathroom in the mirror to show my progress over time. Because sometimes you can look at the weight on the scale, for example, and you can say, I'm not making a ton of progress. You know, my weight's kind of stalled out. But then you look at the pictures, you're like, oh, wow, my body looks different though. Or maybe you're learning how to code and you're writing down, this week, I'm learning how to do for loops. I am totally lost. I don't get this. I'm the dumbest person in the world. Everybody else gets it but me. I'm just a dumb. 2 months later, you're thinking, wow, now I'm learning about closure and scope in JavaScript and these advanced concepts. And I can barely get it. But, I wrote this application today that talks to an API and fetches some data. And then you look back, you think, wow, look at the dumb questions I was worried about on day 1. And look at the less dumb questions that I'm worried about now on day 90. And you keep looking back at this. And you not only catalog what you're thinking and what you're struggling with, but the things that you've achieved. You have this document that shows your progress, this irrefutable proof that you are making forward progress. And then on those days where you're feeling like, I'm dumb, I'm not good enough, this isn't for me, I just can't do it, everybody else is meant to learn this stuff but me, then you go back to this document, this notebook, whatever, and you look at it. How do you make this a habit? Because I could tell you all this stuff. 99% of the people listening to this will listen to it and they'll shake their head and say, yeah, I probably should do that. Do it. Here's how you make this a habit. You want to make the habit easy and hard to avoid. You want to have a trigger that tells you time to do that thing that you said you were going to do. When I wanted to start journaling and writing stuff down, remember this. I want you to remember this and I want to drive this home, okay? I wasn't writing in notebooks for most of my adult life. Wasn't writing code for most of my adult life. I was basically passing out in a drunken stupor for most of my adult life. So these habits weren't just like, oh yeah, I just picked up this habit. I eventually learned how to make habits, trial and error, reading books about forming habits, and generally looking at how people that are successful do these things and just mimicking what they do. So I'm not telling you anything that I haven't done myself and that I know will not work for you. So here's what you do. To make this journaling thing a habit and to write this stuff out, 1, get a notebook. Step 1, just buy the notebook. Make it like a whole act. Like you're going to the store, you buy some notebook. And of course, it's important that you physically write this down. There have been studies that show that physically writing things down has more of a connection to our memory and ability to make memory and retain information than just typing it in a computer or like saying it into your phone or something like that. So yes, buy the notebook, get a little pen, make it a thing, go to the store after work or after you pick your kid up from school, whatever. Go buy it, 99 cents. You put the notebook down wherever is next to where you go to sleep. So maybe you want to journal at the end of the day, which I think is important to like brain dump out all this stuff onto a piece of paper. Also helps you retain the information as you're learning to code, which is so important. If you just write out a little bit about what you learned that day. Like today, I was learning how to declare a variable in JavaScript. It was really difficult, or maybe it was really easy, and but I had these couple questions that I'm not really sure how to figure out. I'll figure these out tomorrow. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing like, and today, I found the love of JavaScript. It doesn't have to sound like a chat GPT essay for LinkedIn or something like that, right? It can be something super simple and short and just wants to get you in the habit of doing this, to retain this information and build this proof that is going to build up your optimism. So you put it next to your bed, right? That way, when you get to bed at night, you look there, you're thinking, man, I'm in bed. What should I be doing? And you open up that book and you write down something in there. And then you do that every freaking day and put a little date next to it, just scribble. You write till you don't want to write anymore. It's not for anybody else but you, right? And then you look back on it and you think, okay, here's my progress. So in conclusion, optimism is not only a fluffy buzzword. It's not like just be optimistic. It's like going to a depressed person and saying, hey, you know what? Just be less depressed. And they're looking at you like, damn, why didn't I think of that? So yes, be optimistic, but be practical with the optimism. You have to be optimistic, because if you look at people who are pessimistic, think about the lives they lead and the outcomes of that kind of train of thought. Not good, right? The internet is rampant with pessimism because it sells. Humans remember negative events much more than they remember positive events. That's why you look back in your childhood, you remember the time you got bullied or fell off your bike or broke a bone. You don't remember all the times your mom or your dad or whoever, hopefully somebody in your life that loved you, gave you love or made you a sandwich or did all these kind, wonderful things that were little small acts. You don't remember any of that stuff. You remember all the worst pieces of it. They stand out, right? The divorce, the time you hit your hand with a nail. So the internet will feed you these things because it knows that your brain loves seeing this kind of junk about why nobody can get hired, about why this guy's a scammer, about why this framework in JavaScript sucks, why anybody that uses it as a tool, about why this certificate is the best thing. You need to also audit this stuff. Make yourself blinded to this kind of thing. Gaslight yourself. Show yourself that you can get the outcomes that you want, need, and deserve. Be optimistic, but in a practical way. I always truly hope this stuff is helpful. And if you are learning to code, I want you to join Parsity. Obviously, also, if you do in the next couple weeks, you're not only going to get $1,000 off the price of Parsity, but I'm going to take the first 5 people, and I think we're up to 3 people now. I think we're down to 3 people that this will qualify for. I will work with you personally to beat the admissions challenge. Now, if you like me, that should be a big incentive. And if you don't like me, well, don't worry. You don't have to take me up on it. You can totally do the coursework on your own to prepare for that admissions challenge. Either way, hope that's helpful. I'll see you around. Can't wait to drop some new episodes this week. I got book authors coming up. I got YouTube celebrities coming up. I got episodes about TypeScript and all sorts of cool stuff and introduction to the cloud. But what I'd really like to know is what you want to hear about. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or in the show notes. There should be a little email or message me button and tell me, what do you want to hear about? Always curious to know what people find useful to know. See you around. That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out Varsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.